Hello and welcome to the Prog Analyst. Today we are going to be talking about the Rush song, Distant Early Warning. I did my best to transcribe the whole song note for note, at least accurately enough for analysis. The song starts with an instrumental intro that strongly resembles the verse. One of the things I find unique about the song is that the intro and verse sections have an atypical number of chords, and therefore measures, in these sections. We start out in the key of A minor, and at the beginning of the song we cycle through 3 chords, each lasting 2 measures, meaning that the cycle is 6 measures long before we return to the first chord. These 3 chords are A sus7, C sus2, and G sus2. Alex Lifeson uses a lot of sus chords throughout Rush's catalog, and even just from hearing the first chord, you can tell that this is a Rush song. The bass line here is pretty active. It's almost constant 8th notes moving around chord tones, or those suspension notes of each chord. And as always, Neil Peart's drumming arrangement creatively starts the song, and in this intro he does this by starting small, playing 8th notes on the hi-hat, playing the bass drum on beat 3, not even on beat 1, which I find interesting, and occasional brief and simple tom fills. The next section we come to moves into 7/4 time, followed 2 measures later by 6/4 time. In these first 2 measures, the organ has an F sharp from the Dorian mode, but these 2 measures are all over the chord A minor. The following 2 measures in 6/4 switch between F and G major chords, so we are back in the natural minor sound. But not only are these chords diatonic to A minor, they will also help us change modes in the chorus, which we'll get to later. The first time we hear this brief section, Neil Peart keeps it simple on the drum still, quickening the pace on the hi-hat to build intensity, and accenting the bass drum and hi-hat in the rhythm of the riff, and the bass is following that rhythm as well. This section serves mainly as a transitional section, in this case between the intro and verse, but later in the song between the verse and chorus. I also think it's interesting to note that the previous section was in 4/4, but in groups of 2 measures, resulting in a total of 8 counts. Going from 8 beats to 7 beats to 6 beats is a kind of countdown that certainly builds intensity as these time signatures change, but I think also reflects the lyrical subject of the song. The title of the song, Distant Early Warning, is a reference to a radar system during the Cold War designed to detect missiles. I think the countdown here correlates with the feeling of an incoming missile, whether that's the idea of the missile launching or approaching its target. While we're on the subject, I just want to mention something about the lyrics in this song. My understanding is that it compares a complex parent-child relationship to the uncertainty of the Cold War, an incoming missile, or the fear of mutually assured destruction, which is also reflected in the radar and missile imagery in the music video. Next we go into the verse, and our first 6 measures have that 3-chord pattern we saw in the intro, with the A sus, C sus, and G sus chords. The drums here are again simple, not giving too much away, but now we have the cross stick on the snare drum on beat 1, with the bass drum on beat 3 still. Very few drummers have as much restraint as Neil Peart, but even those who do would almost certainly switch these, having the bass drum on 1 and snare on 3 for a halftime feel, but Neil Peart's choice to start with the cross stick here is unlike anything I've ever heard, and makes this drum part immediately distinct. After the first 6 measures, we return to the A sus7 chord, but the following chord is a G chord that lasts 2 measures, serving as a momentary change before going directly back to A sus7 to start the second half of the verse, resulting in a 10-bar section for the first half of the verse. Another thing I like about the verse is the space and the rhythm of the melody. Each phrase is about 3 measures long, but the 4th measure is wide open, giving a moment of rest where the guitar can just ring through. And I think if this space had been filled, the melody would have been far too busy to be quite as captivating. There's also a small space here that gets filled in the second phrase. And the second phrase is also higher, reaching up to this D here. And both of these changes are developing and building this melody. This little gap is filled with the red alert here, which feels almost a little refrain-like to me, almost like a response. The second half of the verse has some significant changes in my opinion. The first thing I'd like to point out is while this phrase here is 3 measures, the following is only 2 measures before we get our rhyme here with floors to doors. This quickening rhythm is already building the intensity as we approach the end of the verse. The cross stick is now on 2 and 4, also propelling us forward, and we end the verse with the lyric incomplete, which then leads up the octave, undoubtedly causing a dramatic shift in intensity right before we land in the 7/4 and 6/4 transitional section again. Up until this point, our melody really existed in this E to D range, which is a significant range, but definitely in the lower register for Geddy Lee. So there's a lot more room to grow, as we see here, and we'll see again in the chorus. Things are really amping up when we get to this transitional section, especially in the drums. We get our first snare hit here, over a minute into the song. These F and G chords that we had earlier that returned us to A minor are now going to move us into another direction, which is a relative mode of A minor, D Dorian, which we'll land on in the chorus. The verses had some syncopation in the melody and the guitar chords, but not nearly as much as the chorus does. I think that adds a lot of excitement to the chorus. Nearly every chord in the chorus is syncopated, and the drums emphasize these syncopations with the bass drum and sometimes cymbals. Look at the syncopation in a line like, "What am I to do?" The emphasized words, what, I, and do, are all on upbeats. This might feel rhythmically strange in other contexts, but since every part is so heavily syncopated, it all just adds to this excitement with all these rhythmic anticipations. And I think the combination of the syncopation in the melody, followed by the space here again, is what makes it so endearing to the ear. We're also playing with the new range of pitches in the chorus, the lowest being the C here, and going up to A, which is another contrast from the verse that builds energy. The chords here are a measure of D minor, a measure of C major, another measure of D minor, and then F major and G major both getting 2 beats. These F and G chords bring us back to D minor every 4 bars, but as you remember from earlier, they can also pull us back into A minor when the chorus is over. These next instrumental few measures are just our 3-chord cycle from earlier, which bring us back into the verse. I won't go into the second verse and chorus too much because they're very similar to the first, only the drums are more active. I only want to add that the line obsolete absolute is incredible to me because the words obviously fit together perfectly sonically, but also both apply to the lyrical subject, and it just amazes me that someone would even think of that. The guitar solo is 24 measures long, and the first 16 are over the chords from the chorus. I like how simple the guitar solo starts in the first 16 measures, and the repeated motif in the second set of 8 measures over the sort of stop time section helps to ground us when the rhythm is changing and deceiving us. I especially like how it develops here too, leaping up and repeating a very similar rhythmic idea but on different pitches. The last 8 measures of guitar solo are over the verse chords, and then we get our 7/4 and 6/4 section to bring us back to the chorus. The only difference is here we get an extra 2 measures of 7/4 for some extra intensity and time and odd meter, and the drums in the second set of 7/4 essentially double time from what we usually hear in the 7/4 measures. There's one final chorus, then an instrumental outro with the chorus chords that is far more rhythmically straight than the chorus itself. All of our chords are now on the downbeat. The only lyric in this section is Absalom, which I had to look up to see what it means. Absalom was a biblical character, and the name comes from Hebrew, meaning father of peace, which I think is a fitting end for a song expressed from the point of view of a parent who is comparing their tumultuous relationship with their child to the Cold War, and it feels very conclusive to have this idea of a peaceful parent as the rhythm itself settles down and becomes peaceful at the end of the song. That's my complete breakdown of Distant Early Warning by Rush. Thank you for watching. If you learned something new or enjoyed the video, please like it and share with anyone else who might be interested. Let me know in the comments if there's anything else about this song you enjoy or find interesting I might not have mentioned. If you want to see more of these videos, please subscribe as well. If you have any suggestions of prog rock songs you want to see an analysis video of, leave those in the comments as well. The next video will be about the Devin Townsend song, Life. Thanks again!